Welcome to the Bill and Frantz Show. Today our guest is the Reverend Rebecca Turner of Faith Aloud. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Great to be here.
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
So, Becky, what is Faith Aloud?
Faith Aloud is a national organization. It's interfaith in nature, which means that we work with people of every conceivable religious faith, and we work with women and for women who are making reproductive choices.
Okay.
We work to help them, especially with any religious issues they might have about the decisions that they're making about whether to become parents and at what point in their lives to be parents.
Okay, so you basically keep them informed or help them with different decision making or ideas.
Exactly, and we connect them with clergy of their own faith group so that
Okay.
they can, talk through their decisions. Whether or not to become a mother is a really big, important decision, and at certain points in women's lives, it's a good idea to have children, and at other times, it seems like a really bad idea. And then, there are women who find themselves pregnant at times when they really, it seems like maybe not a good idea, maybe not a bad idea, and they need some help working through, what's right for them at that particular moment in their lives.
Now, when we talk about faith, often the faith community that opposes abortion gets a lot of attention. Is
They
there
do.
what's the history behind that on both sides?
In fact, there's a really long history of religious people, clergy, who have been supportive of women making reproductive decisions, including abortion. And, if we go back into the 60s in the United States, clergy were, within their own congregations, they had women who were suffering and dying because of pregnancies that went wrong and yet abortion wasn't available to them, or even women who tried to self-induce abortion or went to abortion practitioners that were not doctors at all, and they suffered the consequences of that. And clergy looked at this and said, this is not just, this is not fair, and women should not be criminalized for making such very private medical decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And so across the country, clergy really began rallying for women and speaking out. And beyond even just speaking out, there was a nationwide network of clergy which were called the Clergy Consultation Service. And in local communities, including here in St. Louis, clergy would talk to women who wanted to have abortions, and they would get the funding to fly them someplace where abortion was legal, and they would help them pay for not only the travel expenses but for the abortion as well if they needed that funding. And so I really consider those brave clergy who were actually acting against the law in many places, I consider them, my heroes, and my I hate to say my ancestors because it's just a generation before me, but in many ways the ancestors of the work that I do today. They really laid the groundwork for this work, and I'm indebted to them.
It reminds me of some other civil disobedience, but also all have a lot of clergy involved.
Exactly,
Civil rights
and
movement.
there've always been clergy who were willing to look at the injustices in the world and to say, if it means breaking the law, I'm going to have to break the law.
Mm-hmm.
And because I need to be on the side of people who need my help. And most of us who are clergy went into the ministry exactly because we had a deep desire to be of service to other people. And when we see people who are hurting, who are being treated unfairly, it's just in my nature and in the nature, I think, of most clergy to say, okay, how can I help? That's why I'm doing this. I want to be able to help.
It is much appreciated to have clergy such as yourself standing up for these issues, because I feel the same way. I feel like I grew up in church and learned a different psychology, I'll say. And so, but as I got older, I realized that I see things a lot different, that people are people and that people have to make major decisions, and they don't need pressure from one collective group trying to keep them from making a major decision for their own lives.
Yeah, because a decision about pregnancy, about giving birth, or about abortion is an incredibly important moment in a woman's life, and because it's so important, it's very private. And the situations that surround that pregnancy are hers alone, and we simply can't make a rule that applies to everybody. And a lot of people think, well, yeah, but we can make a rule that applies to everybody and then have some exceptions. The problem is every situation is an exception. And we can't ever truly walk in somebody else's shoes and know all of the particular stresses in that person's life that may be medical in nature, they may be financial, they may be personal, they may be a really complex and difficult family system, but the reasons are really endless, and it's the combination of all of those factors that can make it really impossible for a woman to go through with a pregnancy. And and that's not that it's easy on her, to make the decision, but that's why we really want to have compassionate clergy who are available to her to help her understand. I believe that God is with us in all things, that it's absolutely impossible to stand outside of God's love and grace. And so, with knowing that God is present, that God is available to us no matter what our situations, I think that's the most important idea that I can share with a woman when she's in crisis.
I can tell you this: in a world in crisis definitely needs more compassion.
Yeah, no doubt.
So because I think that's what the world is missing is compassion, which of course is God's.
Yeah.
You said there's a lot of laws. What happens is they create general laws that make exceptions. Is there one particularly bad law that's bothering you more than others, or that you would like to have removed?
Yeah, and in every state we're seeing lots and lots of new restrictions on abortion and even on contraception, and there seem to be more and more laws that are really intended to say who's allowed to have sex with whom, and really getting awfully personal. But the one law that I find the most offensive is one that's been in place a lot of years now, for a few decades, and that's called the Hyde Amendment. The Hyde Amendment is a federal law that was passed that says that federal funds cannot be used for abortion. And even a lot of people who generally don't say that they're against abortion still say, well, that's okay, because, our tax dollars, if people are against abortion, their tax dollars shouldn't have to pay for some woman's abortion. But that's not all there is to it. The reality is that when you say that tax money or that federal funds can't be used for abortion, what you're doing is separating what poor women have access to and what the wealthy women have access to. So wealthy women, they've always been able to get abortions. They can fly to Switzerland or wherever they need to fly to in order to get an abortion. But in America today, you have to be able to usually travel quite a few hours to get to an abortion provider. You often have to spend the night because of 24-hour waiting periods. So there are all these, little laws that
Create barriers.
They create these financial barriers for women. And then you've got the Hyde Amendment, which says that Medicaid, Medicare, it's not going to help you out. And, we don't care how poor you are, or even how difficult your medical situation is, how difficult your financial situation is. The government in no way is going to help you. And a lot of poor women go to abortion clinics and simply, because their health care is provided through government funding, assume that abortion is going to be provided as well. And then they learn, nope, it's not going to happen. And so I find the Hyde Amendment the most unjust law that there is, because it absolutely separates the poor from the wealthy.
Okay. Well, let's take a break and we'll talk about this some more. It's very interesting stuff. See you soon.
Hey, Frantz from the Bill Frantz Show. I want to thank the two corporations that have been sponsoring us for the last 3 seasons, the B Corporation and the F Corporation. These two corporations are the greatest. Thanks, fellas. We really thank you. And our viewers. Okay, check it out. Welcome back. Now let me get to this question that's on my heart. I need to speak to Becky about something.
Okay.
Because it's been going on in the media all day and all year and all last year and all the years before. Okay. So the war on women. Is there really a war on women?
Yeah, I think there really is a war on women in this country, and I would say around the world too. It's not just exclusive to the United States. But, throughout the last election season, things got so nasty in the way men were talking about women, and you had the crazy thing with Rush Limbaugh for 3 days ranting about how Sandra Fluke was a whore
Right.
just because she said she uses birth control. And so, any woman that uses birth control is now a slut.
Right.
And so you've got this horrible name calling. And then we also were seeing, good heavens, Todd Aiken, talking about rape, that women can't get pregnant from rape. And then other, politicians who were running for public office, all blaming rape victims for their own rape, that they're just asking for it. And clearly women just really want to be raped, I guess was their attitude. And so, it's the whole hateful way, the rhetoric that we're hearing, in just the way that women are being referred to in public policy and by talk show hosts and politicians. And it's more than just a war on abortion or even a war on contraception, because it's a war on women who are raped. It's an attitude that women are not trustworthy, that women can't make decisions, that women don't know what's good for them, so those old white guys got to decide it all. And it's an effort. We're hearing more talk than I think I've heard in 40 years about how feminism has destroyed the country, and it's all because women went to work in the first place, and we need to get them back in the home and not in the workplace. And so, yeah, I think there is an incredible backlash against all of the advances of the past 50 years that women have made. And we're really seeing it right now against Hillary Clinton, because on the one hand there are people that are really pushing for her to become the next president, and so every force out there that wants to stop that is really making the hostile messages. And when it's against her, you notice that it becomes deeply personal, and it's about women and the way they're supposed to act, and that somebody's not ladylike enough, and it isn't following the rules for whatever somebody has decided women are supposed to act like.
Well, you know what? Personally, for me, I look at the history of the United States to see that men have been running it the whole time. It's time for the ladies to get out here and do something. Maybe they should do it, because the guys have messed up so much, and it's ridiculous. I'm like, and you still want power, and you messed up. I'm ready for Hillary to walk in. I like Hillary. I like the Clintons.
Cool. There's nothing to say. I would never say that just because a woman holds an office, she's going to do a better job than a man. Right. That's not true. But we do have to acknowledge that women have an equal ability to think through situations and to govern.
The Affordable Care Act, aka Obamacare, has some built-in provisions about contraception.
Yes, it does.
And there is some resistance to that.
There has been.
Do you have any opinions about that?
Yeah. Oh, do I? So the Affordable Care Act, which has already brought a lot of major reforms to health care, and especially the way insurance is handled in the United States, includes a whole lot of preventive services that are now available to everyone, men and women, without any copay for the patient. And so, what it's doing is putting prevention out there ahead of everything else. So if you get preventive care, then you're not going to get sick, and it's going to be cheaper for everybody, for the government, for the insurance companies, and for the person. Staying healthy is what it's about. So along with this preventive care, one of those things is that all contraceptive methods would be available at no copay for the insured. So, if a woman has health care insurance, she should be able to get either a birth control pill or any other method of preventive contraception to be able to prevent a pregnancy that she's not ready for. It's so practical, it's ridiculous, right? It just makes perfect sense.
Right.
So, and it's been proven by Washington University in St. Louis by a major study that the one thing that causes abortion rates to plummet is access to free contraception.
That's right.
If women have contraception, the one of their choice at no charge, abortion rates are going to plummet. It will reduce abortion by about half. So anyone who says they're against abortions should be totally in favor of handing out free contraception.
One would think.
Right,
You would, but all of the objections to this have come from not just from religious groups, but now from religious individuals who own companies who say they don't want the health insurance that they provide for their employees to include coverage for contraception because they personally are opposed to it. Now, there's a lot of irony in this. And part of it is that it's been proven that those companies were already providing health insurance that covered contraception. But now that it's Obamacare, they say they don't want to cover that. Now that it's mandated, suddenly they're filing lawsuits in federal courts. So far, every court has said, no, that's ridiculous. You're not a religious institution. You know, so it's companies that they're not religious institutions. Truly religious institutions, churches and whatever, already get a pass on it. They already have a conscience clause, and they don't have to provide it if their religion says that people are not supposed to use contraception. Now, I've got an objection even with that, because they employ people, for example, the Catholic Church has been the most vocal opponent of this, and they don't want to have their employees with insurance that includes contraception. And yet they don't require all of their employees to be Catholic. So they're making their employees follow some religious standard, it belongs to the employer, not to the individual employee. And I think that really changes the whole concept of separation of church and state in America. That is not what was intended at all. And, separation of church and state was always about the individual to worship, to practice their own religious faith. And now it's becoming, now that corporations are people, according to the Supreme Court, now it's the corporation that gets to be religious instead of the individual employee. This is preposterous. So, it's like if I, as a religious person, take a job at some totally non-religious company, such as Hobby Lobby, because I like crafting, I want to get a discount at Hobby Lobby because I like crafts. So I go get a part-time job there, and they're covering my health insurance maybe. But they say, no, because it's a Catholic person that owns Hobby Lobby, you're not allowed to have health insurance coverage. Well, as I see it, that's infringing upon the religious freedom of the individual employee. And, the religious practice of the individual is being mandated by the corporation. That is an abridgment of separation of church and state, as far as I'm concerned. So I've got a real serious problem with that.
This whole thing is scaring me. I'm getting scared,
Yeah, everybody should be scared. There's powers out there that are controlling these very personal things in our lives, and anybody that truly believes that government should be out of our lives should not be letting employers and anyone say what we do with our most private health care decisions.
Okay, so how can people find out more about Faith Aloud?
You can look on our website, www.faithaloud, FAITHALOUD.org, or you can give us a call on the phone, 314-531-5010. We would especially love to talk to any women who are making reproductive decisions and would like to speak to a clergy person, or to those women who maybe have had an abortion in the past and because of their own religious faith have suffered some guilt or shame attached to that. We'd love to connect you with some clergy that can help you feel good about yourself again.
Hey, well, we want to thank Faith Aloud for doing what they're doing in the community. Secondly, we want to thank Becky for going out here, coming out to the show and kicking some science with us, teaching us some things. And hey, that's what the Bill Frantz Show is all about. We love y'all out there. Peace.